Hey guys, what's going on? It's Tell a Truth and a Lie. I'm Matt.
And I'm Zach.
And if you haven't joined us for one of these, this is our second of our two new interview shows. And this one is a little bit of a game that we play with whoever we're interviewing. If you missed part one, I highly advise that you go back and listen to part one of our interview with David Ellefson of Megadeth. Really, really great guy. Just a really great time talking to him. So many good things to say. You know, at least from my standpoint, just he was such a great talk, but also he's doing a lot of really good things, and you know he's got a lot going on despite what's happening in the world nowadays. So go listen to that part of the interview if you haven't done that yet. But this time we get to play a little bit of a game with David. So Zach, why don't you give him a little bit more?
Well, you know, it's just a good old-fashioned game of two truths and a lie. Basically, we ask the musician that we're talking to share two truths about them, stuff that maybe even the most hardcore fan wouldn't have guessed immediately, and then one fib that even the most diehard fan would go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And it was really fun to play this game with David Ellefson because even though the facts that he shared with him about himself were a lot more just about, you know, his recreational life and what he does off the road, he just finds a really great way to tell the story, and so you get to know the man behind the bass a little bit more. And the way that we kind of even found out a little bit more about Megadeth's history just by him revealing some of these true facts about himself. Without further ado, sit back, enjoy part two of our interview with David Ellefson of Megadeth, and let us know on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, @Epic Footnote, who you might want us to interview next. Thanks so much for tuning in, and enjoy.
See ya.
Maybe if you can just share the facts, and then Matt and I are going to guess which one we think is the right one, and might ask you some questions, put on our investigative caps for a second.
Okay. I play golf.
Okay.
All right.
That's one.
Okay. I love working on cars out in the garage. And the other one is I love outdoor sports and physical activity.
Okay.
All right.
How long have you, I feel like I know the answer, but how long have you been playing golf?
You know, I played originally when I was in high school. I actually played on the varsity team for a short period in my probably senior year for a little bit, and then I gave it up for rock and roll, and then I picked it up again when I moved out here to Arizona.
Interesting. So it's either rock and roll or golf. Those are two things you don't always hear.
And then somehow the two of them came together. Suddenly rockers started playing golf. Right?
What type of cars do you like to work on?
You know, it's funny. Growing up on the farm, we always had shops, right? So we had several. My dad built a big shop that we would work on. Obviously, the machinery for the farm, John Deere machinery. So there was always pickup trucks, you know, machinery that we would work on. And I remember at one point, my brother, he got a Trans Am and, you know, muscle cars around the farm in particular, especially like the GTO. I remember we had a GTO up on the blocks. My brother's Trans Am was brand new, but we had farmhands too that worked at the local or that went to the local vocational school. So they would come out, and oftentimes they'd put their cars up on blocks out in the shed. In particular, I remember two farmhands that did that. And that's where I started to get my fascination for cars and working on cars. Usually, you know, the GTO in particular was the main one. And here, because I live in the suburbs, I don't have as much room. I saw James Hetfield's thing that he did about restoring cars. I'm not at that level by any means.
Not at that level.
Yeah, that's like a whole other level. But you know, so, you know, and I've always kind of tinkered. I mean, even when I moved to California, I couldn't afford to fix my, you know, my dad gave you a nice Ford Econoline van, and I couldn't afford to take it to the shop. So I'd have to, you know, we were so poor, me and Dave, that I'd have to actually freaking change the oil and fix stuff myself.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now, when you go, you're saying you're a big outdoors guy, love outdoor sports. What's your go-to sport outside, other than golf?
You know, certainly mountain bike riding. I mean, mountain bike riding, and you know, it's funny. Nick Menza got me into that when when we were doing, because I was newly sober. So like 89 into 1990, I was newly sober. Nick was in the band, of course. We had just started recording the Rust in Peace album. And so me and the producer, Mike Klink, and Nick, we'd go play tennis in Studio City. There was a tennis court right there by my apartment. So we'd play tennis. Me and Dave would actually play tennis a little bit too, because we were both getting clean. And so it was kind of this new lifestyle, like, wow, outdoor, And so mountain biking, tennis, swimming, golf, of course. But yeah, mostly tennis is the main thing that I, is the outdoor, that mountain bike riding. Not really so much hiking, but mostly tennis.
Okay.
I think I know the answer, but Matt, do you need any more clues?
Nope, I'm good. Go ahead, you guess.
I'm gonna say I think the lie is that you work on cars.
Okay. I'm gonna go with that. That's what I was gonna go with too.
I feel like you kind of gave it away in that you don't have too much space. Maybe you appreciate it, but maybe you aren't able to work on it as much as you'd like. So what is the lie?
The cars, complete bullshit.
Yeah. So do you even like to drive?
I fucking hate working on cars. To me, these cars, brand new, put the key in it, go. 3 years, turn them in. I hate working on cars.
What do you have you're now? A lease guy.
I totally am. It's funny, but it is true. We did have farmhand, like we had shops, and I remember, over the years, different farmhands would. So part of the story was true. It's just I don't like working on them. So a lot of the story was true, but for me, I don't like working on them. I'm like taking it, like the dinger goes off. I take it to the shop, let them deal with it.
Yeah. I was gonna say you almost fooled me with like the visual of you and Dave Mustaine working on fixing the oil in your car.
Yeah,
like, that almost like
that was true because we were literally so poor. I remember going and changing the oil filter, changing my brakes, changing brake pads, and that was when I realized this is not for me. Like there are people that are really good at this. I'm not a grease monkey, man. This is not my deal.
Oh, that's too funny. And
good job. You called me out. Yeah,
I'm proud. I'm proud of us. Awesome. I hate to admit this, but this is also the first time we've gotten this right too. So there you go.
Okay, good. Awesome.
And real quick too, you mentioned about like playing tennis and mountain biking when you were getting sober and recording.
All true.
I find it fascinating because one thing I want to ask: you're working on Megadeth material right now.
Mm-hmm.
How would you compare the creative process to working on this new material to what went into making Rust in Peace?
Well, I guess probably the biggest difference is the location. We don't all live in the same town. Whereas, the early years, of course, we all lived in Los Angeles for the very early years, even through Killing Is My Business, really up through, we moved out, me, Dave, and Marty moved out here. Me and Dave moved here first to Scottsdale. And then that's when we started writing and then recording the Euthanasia record, which we did all here in Phoenix. Max Norman moved out here temporarily, as did Nick, and we built a studio inside of a big warehouse down kind of south of downtown Phoenix, and that was where we recorded, mixed the whole record there. And then Max actually took that. There were two ISO rooms and a control room, and he basically sawed them in half, put them on a flatbed truck and took them out to Los Angeles and found another warehouse, put them back together, rebuilt his studio. But it was a weird time for Max because music was changing. So the records Max made, producers have certain genres and styles, stylings to their work as well. And that, of course, is right. Max made these really great metal, hard rock records. And that was right as Pearl Jam and Nirvana and the Seattle sound was coming in. And suddenly Max's sound wasn't really in vogue anymore. So he left the business. He got out of it. Reconnected with Max recently. We've actually used him. He's done actually a mix of some of my stuff on my previous solo album, on the Giants awesome. Record. Yep. And he's done, so it's good to see Max back. He's largely retired out of his. He worked for his brother-in-law. He had a clothing business, so he did IT work for him. I mean, Max is an incredible, just a wizard of a mind, and computer work I could see coming very easy to him. So it's nice kind of in his retirement from his day job now, he's getting back into music. Yeah, it'd be getting newly sober. It was fun to get into sports, and Nick was always very athletic. He always had an athletic body. He was into sports, and so he got me into a much more healthy lifestyle when I was getting clean back in 1990.
That's correct. It's also crazy to think that was 30 years ago now.
I know. Isn't it amazing?
Oh.
Isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's, it's funny. If I lived in Nashville, obviously me and Dave, we'd be hanging all together all the time. I mean, Dirk lives in LA. Kiko now lives full-time over in Helsinki. So, it's just, I think probably the thing is, the physical distance of everybody living in different places. But, it's common goal, which is make a great record and collaborate as best we can and bring things together in our distance quicker. But, there's something that just happens when you get in a room. There's sort of just body language and chemistry of dudes in a room that just sort of, it all kind of clicks together and works,